Hey team, Angus Strachan here, and welcome to the very first Film Slice Nibble.
Just a
That's
nibble.
right, you heard it here. This is going to be slightly different to most of our other podcasts.
Yeah,
I am joined...
Because I'm here in person instead of being we're dealing with lag, so I'm not going to...
80 Ks away.
So what you know now is if I interrupt you, it's on purpose.
Yes, I do know that. I should, in fact, introduce you, I guess,
Yeah,
soon
probably.
as you've interrupted my intro. I am here with Kane Diggly Wiggly Kanedawgs.
Hey there, thanks.
However, we don't have Broadman. He is MIA. I think he's fighting in...
Himself. It's a mental battle.
Yeah.
A lot of time in front of a mirror. Just a lot of reflecting to do.
Yeah.
Because
lot
it's
of
a
broken
mirror.
glass.
A lot of broken glass.
Yeah. But
yeah, self-reflection.
We're hoping that he wins. So
I've got my money on the other guy. It's one of those Voldemort situations. He turns around, there's like a head on the back of his head. Freaked me out as a kid, but that's exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah, so this is a Film Slice Nibble. Let us know if you like the name. We came up with it about 2 seconds before we started recording.
Yeah, it was a tie between that or a Film Slice Nipple. We realised the second one didn't really make sense without context.
I voted for the nipple.
You can't see that we're not wearing shirts or that we're touching each other's nipples.
It is very cold.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we went back to nibble.
Awesome. So we thought what we'd do in this podcast is just have a bit of a catch up and talk about
Just a chat, man. You know,
just figure out what has actually been happening
strip
in
it back,
isolation. Generally, we talk about movies and stuff, so I guess we'll probably keep it pop culture related.
Yeah.
But
Sure, why not?
Just as like a overarching idea of the episode. What's been your go-to for isolation?
For isolation,
funds? Yeah.
I think as I've pointed out over this podcast, I've been the least isolated.
You really have.
It's
It's really annoying.
I've-
We're trying to connect with our audience here, and
got
you're just
three-
like, I'm better than you, fuck you.
I had a conversation today with someone that I hadn't seen in a while, and I'm like, yeah, what's news, man? They're like, oh, well, I lost my job, I'm not employed. What's up with you? I'm like, yeah, I had 3 jobs through, and then I just left one, and now I've just got 2 other jobs. Bought a new car. Like, it's just one of those things. I'm the least isolated. That being said, with everything closed, apart from work, I've certainly resorted to a lot of, not necessarily binge-worthy shows, but I've burnt through a lot of things. I was like, that's on my to-get-to list. I started with a show called White Collar.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's one of those, crime of the week kind of episode things. And it's like,
That's with the guy that looks like Henry Cavill, but isn't
yeah.
Henry Cavill?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his name is.
Not
Henry Cavill.
His name is Matt Bomber, I think.
Henry Cavill.
His name is not Henry Cavill.
Not Henry Cavill, yeah.
Not Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Henry/not Henry Cavill. And I started watching that. Me and my girlfriend started watching that. And that starts really strong. It's got a really good opening episode. And honestly, I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it to go watch like season 1. Mm-hmm. But it then slowly deteriorates to one of those shows where every problem can be solved with a post-it note, and they only ever have like 4 main characters in every episode, so you never, every time it's like, oh, they're gonna die? Short answer, no, they're not. They're gonna be there next episode.
They can't lose any more characters.
Oh, is he gonna betray his friend or just do the right thing? He's gonna betray his friend. That's what the show's about. But they'll forgive him at the end of the season. Then the next season will start. Is he gonna betray his friend this time? Yes, he will. He absolutely will, because we need another show.
It's a thief that.
So it's about a con man who's been a con man his whole life, and he goes to prison, and that's like the opening premise. And it's basically an FBI agent is like, hey, I solve crimes, but I need an expert on this. And he sort of cuts a deal with the con man that the con man can be a consulting FBI agent. Mm-hmm. And then it just becomes a show about 2 FBI agents, but one of them is like an experienced con man. It's one of those types of shows. Anyway, it started with that. We can go through, like, we can exchange
You
shows.
definitely have more than me, but
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, but yeah, that's where I started. That's
Yeah.
sort of, and then that lost interest as I realized that this was going to be more of a weekend, less of a weekend kind of pandemic, and more of a couple of weeks kind of pandemic.
What have I? Well, I think the first.
Where'd you start?
The first thing that I binge watched.
I watched the 2 Towers 9 times.
Yeah,
he says
was Tiger King.
Yeah.
Before we decided to do a podcast on it, it was the flavor of the month on the internet. Like there was just a whole bunch of
way to
memes
be
and
a
everything.
sheep, you bloody idiot.
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
follow
no.
the curb.
It's funny. Like when you said White Collar, there, my reaction was, wasn't that on TV?
Isn't that on TV?
And
yeah.
so my level of watching things is like, I don't really watch anything that was on TV because I assume that it's like
it's bad. Yeah,
a bad
look,
TV show.
I think the rule of thumb for a good show that was on TV, it was only on TV for a week, and then it became like a 9:30 thing, and then it disappeared forever.
Yeah,
that's the quality of a good show. Like if it was on TV and you're like, yeah, I used to come home and watch that every Sunday night. it's a bad show. Don't revisit it. If it stayed on free TV, it was there for a reason. If it got off TV, it's not because they stopped making it. It's because they realized they can charge people to watch it.
I like that we're kind of going on TV shows, so let's stick with
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
shows,
sure,
and then we'll move on to movies.
Yeah.
And then we might talk
I
about
only
games.
watched White Collar. No, I'm kidding.
And then, after games, maybe podcasts and stuff.
Yeah,
A
sure.
few things like that. Any other TVs?
Yeah,
before we move on?
the next thing I fell into, because me and my girlfriend, as I said, we were both watching White Collar, and we still wanted that sort of crime fix, but we're getting really sick of that cheesy repetitiveness, and so we started
Smooth
watching.
jazz.
Yeah. We started watching Sherlock, so like the Benedict Cumberbatch British Sherlock TV
Martin
show.
Freeman.
Yeah, and that was really good until like that was an awesome step up because quality wise it was just better than White Collar. It was just and he's just making all the noise.
Sorry.
Maybe just don't fiddle with everything. Just don't fiddle with everything that has buttons.
Away.
You're like a 6-year-old. We need to give you a fidget spinner. But it was just one of those. One of those TV shows. It's just that's Angus removing his Velcro pants. It's one of those shows where it's higher quality in almost every frame. Maybe the writing is still a bit predictable, but it was certainly a step up from White Collar in terms of the acting and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was what we hit next. But that burnt out. We did finish all of that, but what burnt out for us is, I think since watching that, I've come to really appreciate, and these are few and far in between, but if you find them, they're great, is murder mystery type shows or movies where there's enough information along the way for the viewer to actually deduct a reasonable answer.
Yeah.
Whereas the problem we had with Sherlock is it's always just like this random information that never has anything to do with anything, and then Sherlock's like, I'm going to go into my mind palace or whatever, and then he comes up with some random segmented series of facts that aren't anything. He's like, oh, what I didn't tell you is when I checked her fingers, she had water under her nails, and there was dirt on the back of her heels, and this must mean that she
smelt of napalm.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things where it's like you don't like if you don't give any of that information and that information isn't useful.
Yeah,
it's one of those things you could really do anything.
Yeah, and
so after a while, I think we both got a bit tired of the formula of being like, here's a murder mystery, but you're not there to actually. It's weird because the show
figure it out.
The show
yourself.
takes you along all the facts, but none of those facts are what ends up being used to deduct what happened in the end.
Right. Yeah,
it's like here's a fact and here's a fact and here's a fact, and at the end it's like all of those were misdirects. Here's what really happened.
Yeah.
It's like cool, but why did I just watch an hour and a half of that then?
Yeah.
Better watch the next episode though. So like it was certainly a step up, but it still got old with just you immediately feel. Cheated, like your time's been wasted because you spent an hour and a half being like, I reckon they did it. It's like, surprise, it's this person that you didn't know existed.
Because of the evidence. You didn't know
because
existed.
of the evidence that I have in my mind palace. And it just gets kind of shitty. Yeah, Sherlock was what we went to next. It was really a roller coaster of just like, we went from one thing and went, no, we need something better than that. We went to the next thing. So now that I say it out loud, we really followed a pretty steady trajectory with an actual direction. That's interesting. It's interesting to reflect on. What did you go from? Tiger King? So what was the next step up from Tiger King? The next natural evolution from Tiger King
was Mandalorian.
Yeah,
really.
Direct evolution. The next thing we reviewed.
That's the next thing we.
So what you're saying is, for your half of this entire conversation of this podcast, is to know everything you're going to say. Just look back at the podcast we've done so far.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I will say the next thing I really enjoyed watching was the special features of making the Mandalorian. So if you got Disney Plus,
I certainly want to check that out.
There's a parallel series that goes through like the making of it, not per episode, so it's not like the first episode is about the making of the first episode, but it's more so like different ideas surrounding the production of it. So like the first one's about direction, they talk about costumes, they talk about all this kind of stuff.
That's really cool.
It is fun for a nerd like myself to just watch fellow nerds creating shit that's nerdy.
It's really great. Like we'll get to it, but I've been watching the special features of Lord of the Rings, and I think the most enjoyable thing is just how much fun they're all having. Because so often when you watch the special features of a movie or something like that, it always feels forced. Like they're being forced to say something positive. It's like, how is the making of this film? And you just see like
I really enjoyed the catering.
Like you just see this washed up, shriveled man in like a crinkled, like off-colored white shirt. He hasn't slept in like 7 days, and someone's been like, "Yeah, we're doing a making of CD because that's what people have to do now. What's your favorite part about this film?" And he clearly just wants to be like, "I just want to go home, man." And instead he's got to be like, oh, look, everyone on the team was great, and the lead actor was such a great person to work with, and I gotta hand it to the editing team, and it's always just the most useless, special features CD. Oh, if you go back to, like those mid-2000s, like that, Spider-Man 2 to, like, Fantastic Four Silver Surfer kind of era, like 2004 to 2007.
That era that everyone knows about.
Yeah, I guess that's how I justify it to myself. But, like, you know, that weird 2003 to that early DVD transition where people just started to put special features. Every like, when you went into the DVD main menu, it always had, like, some horrible CGI thing there. Like, it's always horrible. And the special features, it's so great to watch because it's so dumb, but everyone talks as if what they're doing is so revolutionary.
Yeah. There's always that B-roll of all of the actors just standing on the side of the camera,
just looking shriveled and
standing and watching.
They're all got, like, cigarettes set up and like
yep,
tired, and it's always someone trying to be a bit pompous about how artistic their decision to give the Punisher a black leather jacket was. Like, it's just honestly. So there's a Tom Jane movie, The Punisher. It came out in 2004. The special features of that goes for about 2.5 hours, and a good 30 minutes of that, which I will admit I've watched many times, was like the woman. The person who was in charge of, like, coming up with costume design and stuff like that, and she's like, yeah, we really, like, we went and we looked at, like, you know, all the comics and stuff like that. I'm like, he's wearing black jeans, a shirt with the Punisher symbol on it, and a black leather coat. How long are you really going to pretend it took you to come up with this? Yeah. And she's like, we looked at a lot of leather jackets. I'm like, okay, but like, that's one thing, but also, if you had picked any other jacket, it would make no difference.
Yeah.
Like, any long leather jacket is the same. It doesn't matter. Like, we're not going to be like, wow, they really influenced the film by giving him that slightly different
like
leather
that
jacket.
Third button.
I think, it's one of those things.
She's 4 buttons, too much.
Like,
too busy. It's too busy.
With a movie like that, the conversation of, like, you know, which skull you picked, that's going to be somewhat interesting to people that are fans.
Yeah.
But it'd be like, we picked this kind of black jeans because there's tactical pockets on it, and we feel a character like, he's got pockets.
All right, any more TV shows before we jump into movies?
Yeah, the next general progression for us, and I hadn't seen this before, was Fargo, the TV show.
Yep.
Again, like, we just went up another step in terms of quality and along this crime TV show,
which was originally a movie first, wasn't it?
Was a movie, yeah. So again, like, I have seen the movie, but way too long ago. To my understanding, the TV show that we're watching, because it was like the movie is based off a true story, and the first season is based off that same true story. So there's going to be elements that are different.
Yep.
And within the TV show, you got more time to give more detail. I don't know how many of those details are based on fact and how many are added for the sake of the runtime of a TV show, but it's really good quality. It's Martin Freeman, and that other bloke, and it's really, you know him, and it's really quality. Like, it's just quality. Like, even if you're not interested in the topic, or you're like, I don't really know anything about it, or I don't really care for that kind of stuff. It's just one of those shows. It's like Breaking Bad. Like, I don't care about, like, if someone's like, hey, you want to watch it? What's it about? It's about, like, a meth cook. I don't know, but it's just, it doesn't matter what it's about. If it's good. It takes 5 minutes to be captivated by the performance and the way that the story is written and structured, that it doesn't matter what it's about, it's done well.
Yeah.
And Fargo is one of those things.
Right. I'm all out of TV.
Out of TV shows.
Yeah.
So you in fact watched the two things that we did a podcast on.
Pretty much.
So if you'd like to skip, I mean, you're only listening to this podcast at this moment, but if you'd like to skip from the beginning to now, if somehow you accidentally push the button, if you're like, oh, it's weird, it skips 20 minutes forwards, just start here. You're fine.
You're fine. Yeah. I have off and on, I've been watching Rick and Morty, which is an awesome TV show. That, and not as recently, but still enough to talk about it, Big Mouth. Have you ever watched Big Mouth?
I watched the first 2 seasons of Big Mouth. That was certainly... Awesome. That was a weird show to watch.
I love it so much. I've watched it over... I think I've watched it 3 times now.
Yeah.
In total. Really cool. If you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. It's basically Nick Kroll and his kind of team of comedians. That, you know, people that are generally in those kind of movies. It's a cartoon based on kids going through high school and hitting puberty.
Yeah.
And it's
brutally honest.
It's real brutally honest. And it's really awesome, and I would recommend, if you've got a housemate of the opposite sex, or, you know, a partner of the opposite sex or something, it's really interesting watching it next to them, because...
I mean, like, hey, is that what it was like?
Well, yeah. Like, I go through it and there's like some jokes about like, you know, guys, you know, obviously going through puberty and getting erections at awkward times and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. And then there's like jokes about like girls going through awkward times. And then like my housemate would be like, yeah, like, and I wouldn't find that funny because I wouldn't like know what it's about or what it's hinting at.
I will say, as you say, like if you can watch it with the opposite sex for that insight, it is also watch it with someone you trust because, as I said, like it's brutally honest. And when I said it's brutally honest, I'm not saying that it tells you things you don't want to know. I'm saying that it tells everybody else things you don't want everyone else to know.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's relatable in ways it's like, I didn't think anyone else went through that.
Yeah.
But everyone went through that. And you kind of secretly know that, but no one's going to like just openly share that. So you watch it and it's like, you remember that time you experimented with that thing? It's like, but don't tell anyone. But now if you watch with someone else, like, did you do that? It's like, everyone does that, right? It's normal. It's one of those things where, it's certainly an interesting show. I watched that with the partner I was with at the time, and every time anything happened, she'd look and be like, is that
right?
Right? And I'm like,
under scrutinizing eyes.
And I'm like,
is that right?
is that what it was like? And I was like,
do you really look at boobs?
But it was like, is that what happened? I was like, yeah, bigger. It's one of those things where, as it happens, you consistently like, it's awkward to relive, but it's even more awkward if someone's like, can you confirm? Yeah. It's like, baby.
Yeah. It is really
it's
good
a
show,
fun ride.
Yeah, definitely watch it with someone you trust and have
a good rapport with. Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely.
Don't watch it with your parents, or do absolutely make
go for it.
Write in, let me know. How'd that
go? Would recommend. Good fun, and it's funny as shit itself. It's awesome. Any other TV shows before we head on to movies?
No, I'm good to kick it off into film. I think
let's do some movies.
I'm gonna go back and be like, fuck, I forgot to mention this really good TV show. No, it's fine.
Yeah. We'll just blitz through some movies.
Yeah.
I'll go first. Sure. After watching Mandalorian,
I watched Tiger King the movie. The Mandalorian the movie.
Wow, funny you say that. After watching the Mandalorian, we decided to start watching the Star Wars films,
the originals.
So we watched episode 4, 5, and 6.
Every time someone says that, I think of there's the Family Guy one. It's like, let me tell you the story of Star Wars. Let's start with part 4.
Let's start with part 4, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I really want to rewatch Blue Harvest and all the Family Guy ones as well. Especially after watching the originals. Yeah. It's a good idea to watch the actual Star Wars and then watch the Family Guy ones because there's so many in-jokes in it. And like whenever I was watching the original Star Wars, I was saying the jokes to myself of the
like when they came out with like 14, so they weren't as felt like there's so much more to understand now.
Yeah, definitely. So we're watching that. Still the first 3 like they definitely have aged.
They've aged.
They've aged, but
good.
They're like nostalgic aged. They haven't aged badly. I think there's obviously some tech in there that's kind of old and like using puppets and stuff. It's not really done now, and the CGI is pretty pathetic, but it's nostalgic in a good way.
It's aged in a way where you respect how visionary it was, considering when you compare that to other stuff that existed.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. We skipped episodes 1, 2, and 3 because couldn't be bothered with that, and I think originally we were working on a 7-day basis of Disney Plus free trial. Mm-hmm. So we went and did episode
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, and we haven't done 9 yet.
Good. So I'd recommend not doing 7, 8, or 9. And then if you can find every copy and destroy all of them.
It's interesting watching them back. I think it started off with a good base.
Yep.
Like episode 7
I was
is basically
incredibly positive about Force Awakens when we saw it. I was like, back to form. Coming off of the prequels, I was like, you know what? They've leaned quite heavily on like fan service. Yeah. But they've recaptured the essence of Star Wars.
And visually it's stunning. Visually it looks awesome. Like that's the first Star Wars.
That's the bread and butter of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's the first Star Wars that I saw the size of like
scale
Star Destroyers and stuff like that. Like it was, the size and scale was immense, and I think that was the first time that Star Wars have actually done it, where it's like, oh, that's just a miniature that's been enlarged and like on a green screen or whatever. And then we watched episode 8, which like there's a lot of things in there that I didn't like. I like that it was a change. It was very different Star Wars movie, but there were just too many things in there that was too much of a change, like the force apparition and
it's that, but also
being able to fly through space.
There were so many really over convoluted forced plot points to try to drive a narrative that the paper thin. Like, if you think about so much of anyone's actions for more than 30 seconds, and I think that's my problem for 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Is even if you remove the fact that it's like, hey, the Emperor's back and he's got to start. Where'd he get them? Don't worry about it. How long's he been standing there? Who cares? But even if you take out any of that, everyone's like intentions and actions and drive is so paper thin. You're like, oh, why is he doing that?
Because he said he would.
And anytime they try to give you depth, it's like they ask you to look down a hallway, but if you decide to walk down that hallway, it immediately falls apart. Like, it's like, yeah, Flynn's gonna. He's like, like Stormtrooper, and his arc is a bit about being like, oh, Stormtroopers are people too. Like, and he meets in, like, I think it's episode 9, he meets another chick, and she's like, yeah, I used to be a Stormtrooper, but I'm also a human. It's like, cool. But then, like, the next scene, he's just, like, ripping through Stormtroopers, and he's like, yahoo! He's, like, fucking killing everyone. And it's like, what are we... what? Like, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, Stormtroopers are people too, unless they still have the helmets on, in which case they're just faceless killers. Don't worry about it. Yeah, go for it. Movies that I watched recently, I recently watched a movie called Equilibrium. It's kind of like, it's sort of like a Matrix-esque... It's heavily inspired, and look, 100% you could probably accuse it of being a bit of a ripoff, but it's got a really interesting concept, which is basically like World War III happened, and everyone decided that the problem wasn't the concept of weapons, the problem was basically emotional response. The fact that, like, people have disagreements, but the war comes from them being too emotional, and so they're given basically a suppressant that all of civilization is expected to take every day that suppresses your emotions to an extent. Right. So you become almost like an ant colony. Everyone has a job, everyone has a reason to exist, but there's no, like, everyone leads the same life. Everyone's just in like a white box of a room, and everyone just hops in, like, puts on their grey suit and hops in their grey car and drives through work, where they work in a grey cubicle. And it follows Christian Bale as, like, he's basically a kind of like a police enforcer type person whose job is to go and find people that have secretly stopped taking their dose and they're feeling again, and his job is to, like, sort of eradicate them.
Yeah. And
of course, as the story goes, like, he loses his dose somehow, and he slowly starts feeling and realizes, like, oh no, the world needs emotions. But it's really good world building. It's a really interesting concept, although I did summarize it quite vaguely, but it's worth having a look. The action is definitely going to feel very... It's got, like, that doom 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 doom, like, sort of Matrixy kung fu-esque fights that haven't really aged well, but for the most part, it's a really interesting film to watch. Just for the concept alone, it's really interesting. And the action's fine. It's interesting. They do this weird kung fu thing where they called it gun kata, and it's like, yeah, they're called clerics, like the police agents. Like, we've taught our clerics the most efficient stances and positions to stand in to get the maximum kill zone out of. So it's like, they stand like, it's like a Tai Chi type thing, but with guns.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, they're the most efficient killers. But I watched it, recently with my girlfriend, and there's a part where Christian Bale's character stands literally maybe 1.5 meters, like, social distancing distance of, like, 8 people on either end of him, all just, like, holding assault rifles at him. And, like, he shoots them all down, and she's like, how did none of them hit him? Like, it's like a foot away from him.
Literally impossible.
Like, it's literally nothing. And there's this great scene where, when they're explaining, like, the gun kata, it's got, like, it comes up with, like, math equations and, like, pictures of, like, triangles that have, like, sine and cos and tan and things like that. And back then, you might have been a bit fooled by, like, oh yeah, there's science behind what they're doing. But when you watch it a bit more as an adult, it just looks like that meme with Zach Galifianakis, where they're just like, from The Hangover. But as much as it's worth a laugh, it's a really interesting film to watch. And it's just, like, I think my favourite thing in all films, certainly that I'm starting to realise now, is world building. Good world building is what I really appreciate. Like, Blade Runner 2049 certainly builds on stuff like that. John Wick, incredible world building. Any film that within 10 minutes can paint me a completely different world, where I don't feel like it's just, oh yeah, they filmed this in America somewhere. Like, anything where I'm like, that's an awesome set piece. It doesn't look like anything I've seen before. I understand the world without needing, like, a 30-minute thing of someone being like, oh, it was World War III, and after that this happened, and like, without crazy amounts of exposition. If you have good world building, I'm usually in for it.
Yeah.
This is a great film for that.
Yeah,
it's a really good job.
Nice one. Nice. Any other movies? That's kind of the main ones.
Yeah, look, what was the last one we watched? We watched Dredd again, because Dredd is just an awesome film. So that's Carl Urban. And look, if you're squeamish, don't watch it. But if you just want a good action film, it takes a lot from the movie The Raid, which is like, a SWAT guy sort of goes into a building to get a gangster, and the gangster's like, right, there's a SWAT guy stuck in this building. has like, a reward on his head to be the person to bring me his head and like kill him and whatnot. Yep. This is very similar. Judge Dredd goes, and it's based off a comic book, but it's basically like, he's a police, but he's a judge, jury, and executioner, and he goes to a building to get someone. The building gets locked down. It's like, there's a judge in our building, here's like, $1,000 to the person, probably more than $1,000.
Here's $10
$8 to the person that can kill him. And it's just him like slaughtering his way up to the top, but it's so stylistic.
Love it.
And it's just awesome. Nice. It's just action done well. Yeah, classic. It's really great.
Yep. Anything else you want to talk about? So I've got one podcast that I've been listening to this podcast for ages, and I'm a bit behind the times on it. But it's just wrapped up, I guess its first season, you can call it. So it's a D&D podcast.
Sure.
So it's a Dungeons and Dragons podcast called Not Another D&D Podcast.
Not Another D&D podcast. I get the name now. I understand it. It's great. Brilliant.
That's the one. So it's done by people who do like Dimension 20, which is like a YouTube D&D thing. But
I just like to clarify, you said Dimension 20, not Dementia 20.
Dementia 20.
It's got Dementia 20. No one remembers why they're there. It's every episode is just like the first episode.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so it's basically these kind of four comedians playing D&D. It's really good fun, and it's awesome to have a podcast that, I guess, like our podcast is very kind of week by week basis. It's like flavor of the week kind of thing. Whereas this is a story that goes from episode 1 to episode 100. And it's all about
comedy
character. Comedy. Heaps of character development and like the world building that the DM does is insane. Sometimes I listen to it like late at night and I'm just in fits. Like I'm literally crying at how funny
worth having a look at.
It's definitely worth having a look at.
I'll add it to my playlist.
It's the only thing like with any podcast is it takes up a lot of time. But like I've been driving down to work with my dad. It takes me an hour to get here, so like smash out an episode. And the episodes are pretty manageable. They're like an hour and a half. So like there are a couple
of drives to and from work.
Yeah.
If you've got like an everyday routine of doing that,
definitely.
Smash them out.
Yeah, definitely worth that. Would recommend. Kanedawgs.
Look, I don't have any podcasts to recommend per se, but I wanted to take this time just to talk about you, man, because today you were at my house today doing some handyman work, which was incredibly emasculating for me. But you were just at my house, just doing the hard yards, being a bit of a tradie.
Yeah.
And
an absolute lad.
Absolute lad. I showed up with my girlfriend, and I just thought you seemed a bit sad today, but luckily my girlfriend had a lot of things to say about you.
Oh, good.
That I, with permission, took note of.
Excellent.
And I thought I'd bring them up. So here's a few quotes that just to make you smile a bit.
Okay, so paint the picture. You rocked up in your new convertible car with your girlfriend in the passenger seat.
Punsy.
You've got your shirt all done up and everything. Yep. Look over to the other side of
3 hours of work.
Look over to the other side of your home.
This bearded, shriveled man
with his
dad.
With his bearded dad is knee deep in dirt just
holding a
literally shoveling shit.
Literally shoveling shit.
Just shoveling.
Came over,
shoveling a whole bunch of dirt. Looking like an absolute lad. Just
stood in front of my car,
glistening on my forehead.
Bit of a conversation. Drove away. And here I'm just going to read them as quotes, just standalone. Awesome. Yeah. But all of these are meant 100% how they sound. None of them are sarcastic. None of them are meant as put downs. They're all just 100%. You're like, you know what? I'm going to tell him you said this. So if you're listening, look, don't feel awkward. So just to run through them. He just had it going on today. He just looked damn fine. Does he know how good he looks today? The tradie life suits him. The way his shirt clinged to him, not too loose, not too tight, his sleeves slightly pulled up, with the hair pulled back and the cap on, just a delight. When he looks like that, I don't know how he doesn't have ladies lining up. Honest quotes all through today.
I would like to know how you feel in your dress shirt listening to
that
to this guy who's...
Well, usually we just talk shit about how horrible you look all the time, so I felt fine with it. No, having felt like quite emasculated about coming home and realizing that you're like, mowing my lawn and doing all the hard work around my house, and then leaving with my girlfriend being like, yeah, he just looked incredibly attractive and sexy
just
today. He really looked fantastic today, just covered in sweat, working out. Yeah, incredibly. Anyway, so those are the key. Here's the keys to my car and my girlfriend. No.
Good. I appreciate that.
It was one of those things where I was just like, you know what? He deserves to know this today.
Thanks.
I don't know if he wants to hear it, but he deserves to know that. He deserves to know that. And absolutely, I agree. When we left, I was like, he looked fucking good today. He just looked good. I don't know. He just looked good today. I don't know what to tell you, man.
You know what the difference is between now and before isolation and everything?
You've watched 30 hours of YouTube.
Yeah, no, I haven't shaved in those 2 months.
So what you're saying, you've covered up most of your face, and now you look much more attractive.
My whole body is hair now.
You're actually, it's literally your eyebrows.
I'm 80% hair.
You're grug.
And I'm going bald, so you can...
You're grug.
I would like to, just to finish off this Potty Pod, I know you and me here, reveling in the fact that we're together finally.
As usual, just you and me. No one else.
Just you and me.
As it always is, and as it always will be, and as it always should be.
I would like to call one of our ex-podcast members just to catch up. They're doing it tough, smashing out assignments.
Who's that?
I'd just like to see if he has any
Bet you he doesn't answer the punts.
Probably.
He won't listen to this. It's fine. We say what we want.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey man, what's up?
Not much. What's up?
Sup?
Not much. You told us you were too busy to come to this podcast. What's up? Oh, I'm just relaxing at home.
I'm busy.
That doesn't... We've caught you red-handed.
Thanks for calling in.
I thought you called me.
Yeah, no, I did. So we went through and we just did TV series, movies, and podcasts that have kept us entertained in isolation. Do you just want to smash out some super quick recommends?
Yeah, definitely. Last night I watched His Dark Materials, which is a HBO series based on a series of books. I don't know if you remember. You'll probably remember because it was a pretty bad film. When we were kids, a film came out called The Golden Compass.
Yes, I remember not liking that movie.
Yeah, that movie is based on the same series of books as the TV series.
You're not enticing me.
And it's incredible because in the fantasy world that it takes place in, every single person has an animal companion.
That's good.
So every single person in the entire TV series has an animal following them. And they did all the animals in CG, and they all look absolutely amazing.
Nice. What's it called again?
His Dark Materials.
That's not a good name.
No.
His Dark Materials.
Yeah, especially seeing it's about a teenage girl.
Huh. Really...
Anyway, bye, Brody.
Really pulled the cloak over our eyes there. Pulled the sheep over our face.
Yeah. I watched a couple episodes of Westworld Season 3, and it's pretty bad.
Nice one.
It's pretty bad.
So don't recommend that one. Skip that one.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's about it.
Gotcha.
Also, I watched the first episode of Batwoman.
Ooh, any good?
Awful.
Well, interestingly enough, Ruby Rose just recently left that TV show as well after season 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
She
She's
just
way
left.
better than that role is. It is absolutely awful. An awful show.
Good. So a few not unrecommends from...
Brody's actually done the opposite of answering your question, which is to answer a different question that we didn't ask him.
Awesome. All right, we're going to end that podcast there. And Broadman, if you could just finish us off on your catchphrase, your famous Broadman catchphrase, just to say goodbye to all the listeners. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
Less of a nibble and more of a massive bite.
If I see you in the bathroom, don't talk to me.